Well, he's getting that set up. I'm John Floyd. I'm the head of sales here with Honorlock. I support the team who supports all of our prospects and customers. Successful proctoring. That is Mr. David Giroux, our regional director.
Nice to meet you guys. I'm responsible for our business in the Western United States. I live in Bend, Oregon, but support Utah, Idaho, West. So we've had a lot of great momentum building from customers migrating from solutions like you've been using to a more robust Honorlock solution. So we're excited for you guys to experience Honorlock.
Awesome. So we go around real quick and just find out who y'all are, your role and familiarity with proctoring.
Sure, everyone's turning to me, so looks like I'm first.
You're the head of the table.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, my name's Hunter Elliott. I'm one of the student employees here. Should I tell you more about me or go on?
Where you're born, what
Sure.
childhood memories.
I was born in Pocatello.
Awesome.
Do you support faculty or students or both?
Yes, so our main goal is to support faculty, but we also support students if they come in with specific questions. Obviously, we can't go ahead and change administrative stuff. What student requests it.
I'm Malachi. I'm also a student staff here. I've been at the ITRC for about 3 years now. So I have a little bit of proctoring experience.
I'm Haley, one of the student workers, and yeah, proctoring, we just know how to add it to courses. And then if we have any student experience, it's just, yeah.
I am also Haley, and I'm a student.
Too many Haleys in one.
And I've been here 3-4 weeks now, so I'm still learning everything.
Anybody?
My name is Matt Wilson. I'm faculty in the College of Technology. I teach writing classes, and so I, as faculty, have been futzing around as best I can with proctoring because I teach a lot online. So I use e-proctoring in most of my classes at least once.
Tim Anderson, I'm professor in the College of Business. I've never used proctoring software in my classes, but I'm open to use this exclusively for testing in my in-person and online classes.
Great.
I'm Cosette Wood. I'm also a student employee. I only know how to log in.
Right, we know you and we know you.
Andrew and Ryan.
Can everybody hear us from?
Oh yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, thanks for making sure though. Yeah, I'm Ryan. I'm another one of the people who works for the ITRC. Mondays are my busiest day. I'm finally able to have lunch now, so I'm going to keep my video off for the rest of this. But yeah, just so you know, I work in the ITRC. I kind of like Matt. When I do get to teach classes, they're mostly asynchronous, mostly online. But what I do in ITRC is help support faculty who teach in any kind of modality, and many use proctoring. So I'm excited to learn more about it today.
Sweet.
Hi, I'm Andy. I'm an incoming assistant professor in psychology. I actually was speaking with Ryan last week asking about proctoring solutions, and then he dropped this bomb that we're switching just as I'm coming in. So I'm excited to learn about what I'm doing for my first course that's online this coming fall. Also, this is completely unrelated, but Matt Wilson, I just got an email that you are one of my faculty mentors.
Yeah,
So,
I recognized your name as well. So good to meet you. We'll meet down one day. Yeah.
Sweet. I didn't introduce myself, did I?
No.
Yeah.
All right, I'm Matt Schreiber. I'm a senior solutions engineer here at Honorlock, and I'm gonna walk you through everything you need to know today. So I'll share my screen about proctoring. And just a fun little tidbit, if you happen to walk from here down to the College of Business building and you see some white footprints in the middle of the road that are permanently there, they're from my feet. I stepped in wet paint. So yeah, you'll know where that came from. Oh, that was the Honorlock guy. All right. So real quick before I go in, I know you all kind of had some brief comments about your familiarity with proctoring, but I want to learn a little bit more about what the experience has been like, so I can really tell you how it's going to be different. So I know it's going to be different, but I want to learn a little bit more about what it's been like, what some of the challenges have been.
Sure. I've seen a lot of faculty, they come to us and be like, hey, my students can't get into their course or their quiz, and it's usually a syncing issue, the system. We have to go in on the teacher side and sync it manually. And then the students might be able to get into their quiz. There's always some kind of technical issue.
So is this live? Is this like live proctoring with ProctorU?
Either or, yeah.
Okay. All right, so the way that we do proctoring is a little different, right? So we combine AI with human. So what that allows for is a lot of flexibility, right? So with like a ProctorU, the students have to schedule the exam in advance and then wait for the proctor to show up. Sometimes it takes some time, and I know, like, if I'm a student, I want to go in and take the exam when I'm ready. You know, I don't want to have to wait. I'm already stressed out because I want to do well in the test. I don't want the proctoring solution to interfere with that. And that's kind of what you'll get with Honorlock. So I shared this earlier in a meeting with the College of Business, but you can almost look at our proctoring solution as a in-home alarm system, right? If you have one of those installed, the alarm company isn't sitting there watching your house 24/7. But if somebody breaks in, something like that, it's going to trigger an alert, and then it's going to notify them, and then they're going to call you, right? That's kind of how we do proctoring. So everything is automated at the beginning, authentication, everything is automated. And then while the student's in the exam, everything is automated unless they're doing something that they shouldn't be doing. So let's just say I'm not visible in the frame of the webcam. We're going to record students through the webcam. So if you can't see my face for an extended period of time, or somebody else comes into the room and is assisting me with my exam, something like that, it's going to notify our real human live proctors. And then the live proctors will look at the session and make a determination on whether or not that specific student is doing something that's in breach of the guidelines for the exam. If they are, the proctor can then pop in and intervene and address that behavior with the student to guide them back to compliant behavior. If that student did commit a violation of the exam guidelines, the instructor of the course will get notified via email. So most students will not ever actually have to interact with a live proctor. So if I'm a student that's just taking my exams honestly, I'm never going to be bothered, right? But if I'm one of the small percentage of students that, even with proctoring enabled, even knowing that I'm being recorded, try and do something that I shouldn't be doing, I'm most likely going to hear from a live proctor. But the live proctors will never be accusatory, and you might actually see what that looks like today. So just something to keep in mind. So any questions so far? Sorry, I'm just preparing something on my phone for this. No questions so far? All right.
I just want to make it clear, they're able to interject in the middle of the test. And
The proctor, yeah, real time.
awesome. So you have people on 24/7,
365,
365.
All
Wow.
on demand.
all on demand, no scheduling.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Yes, so how this is gonna go is I'm gonna start out as an instructor. I'll show you how easy it is to go in and enable your exams, go over the different settings and options that are available. And then what we'll do is we're gonna take that exact exam as a student. So I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna take out my IDs. We have that for the ID part, and I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna try and misbehave and show you how Honorlock would react. So Honorlock integrates directly into the Canvas course. So we have, when you go in for the first time, it's not gonna show up. You have to click on navigation and then scroll down. We have a million different Honorlocks, but you would just choose the one Honorlock that's visible. Michael and I actually work today. Everything's working in your environment, so that's cool. And then once you click save at the bottom, it will show up on the left-hand side. So this is what the view looks like for faculty. Any quizzes that are created in Canvas will automatically populate in this dashboard. So then you'll tell us by clicking on this blue enable button, which ones you want us to proctor, right? Very recommended. Go up to the hamburger, click add practice assessment. This is crucial and something that we highly, highly recommend to make sure that students are acclimated with Honorlock before they go in and take something that counts towards their grade. Yeah, good question.
I've noticed with some of these third-party tools, when you integrate it into the course through the navigation, students still cannot see it.
Oh, they'll be able to see it.
They'll be able to see the
Yeah.
Honorlock portal. Okay.
Yeah, but they will only be able to launch their exams. The view that I have right now as an instructor looks completely
Yeah.
different than what a student would see. So yeah, definitely want to set up that practice quiz so that students understand what to expect. And typically they'll just see how easy it is to use, right? So you can customize whichever settings you want. Bottom right-hand corner, your best friend for multiple reasons. Live chat support. 24/7, 365, always talking to a real person. Average chat response time is 12.8 seconds. So when you go into that chat, reach out to our support team with any questions. We'll be there to assist you pretty much immediately, any day of the year. If it's 3 a.m. on Christmas, doesn't matter. We're there to assist. Now, with students, I'll talk a little bit more about this, but this is so that the burden of student support doesn't fall on you, right? If you have instructors reaching out to you, which hopefully you won't, saying students are having issues, you can always direct the student to go reach out to us through the support, because this is available to them too. And we can provide you with chat transcripts for any conversations we have with your students. Because like the new "my dog ate my homework" in 2025 is the proctoring solution wasn't working. Maybe I could take the exam without proctoring. And of course, they'll say, yeah, I reached out, they couldn't help me. And then we'll go in and look at the chat and they never actually reached out. Or we provided a solution and they left the chat, right? Or 99.8% of the time when somebody reaches out through the chat, we're able to resolve their issue on the first contact. Maybe they did fall into the 0.2%. Statistically, it's going to happen, right? So if it does happen, we can verify like, hey, yeah, their webcam wasn't working or something like that. But that's why the practice quiz is crucial, because if there is something wrong with their device that makes it incompatible with Honorlock, they know, okay, I need to get on a different device and then test it out again with the practice quiz so that this doesn't happen. We know students, not all students, but some students like to wait till the last second. So practice quiz is crucial. All right. Now, everyone in here, I'm sure you are familiar with, well, you're getting familiar with Canvas quizzes as you make the transition, but you also are familiar with giving exams in third-party platforms as well. We can proctor those too, right? So right now, we're just going to be talking strictly about the Canvas exams. So these are all the exams I've created in my course. Is Honorlock Assessment 2. That's what we're going to set up, take as a student. So I'll click on Settings. One of the coolest features we have is something called Search and Destroy. So what we will do when you say, we want Honorlock to proctor this exam by clicking on the blue Enable button, we're going to scan the web for all of the questions in your exam and then report back to you whether or not any of those questions live on the internet. If there's questions that we didn't find online, you'll see, hey, these weren't found on any websites, right? If they're found on more than 5 websites, like this one was found on 10 websites, we'll show you exactly where we found it and recommend that you change the wording of the question. And then if they're found on 5 or fewer websites, like this one was found on Quizlet, for example, right? You'll have the ability with the click of a button to send a copyright takedown request directly to the website. We'll generate an email that automatically gets sent when you click this button. I manually sent the takedown request for this question. So when I click on this link, we'll be able to see the content was taken down from Quizlet. Everybody on Zoom, is everybody hearing me okay?
Yep, I can hear you.
Yep, I
Sweet.
can hear you as well.
Okay. All right, so
Can I ask a question?
yeah, of course.
You mentioned that all the exam questions are gonna be searched. Now, this maybe is a question also about Canvas, and I don't really know about that yet because I haven't looked into it. But I hope that I can create exams that have a question bank, that the exam itself isn't all of those exams for the student. Assuming that that sort of functionality exists in Canvas, is that something that Honorlock could handle?
So, good question. That is something that I believe Canvas can support. They can support question banks, but search and destroy will not work for question banks. The way to work around that is to create another quiz, assign it to nobody, and have the questions individually uploaded into Canvas. So like if there's a question bank of 300 questions, you would basically have a 300 question quiz, and then we can run search and destroy for it that way. The other things to know about search and destroy is it is doing an exact match of the question. So if there's like one character in there that isn't found on the web, it will return back no results. But if it is an exact match, which most of the time it will, it'll return back to you what you need. The other thing is it will only work for text-based questions. So it will not work for image-based questions. We can't search for images, and we can't search for like non-text equations, stuff like that. So just some things to note.
Awesome, thank you.
So now going into our settings for the exam, we talked a little bit about how we proctor, and if one of our live proctors marks a violation within a session, we can send email notifications to the instructor. If the, what is it, the IRC? ITRC, I was close. If the ITRC team is going in and setting up the exams for instructors, which I understand is not going to be the case, but just if that ever does happen where an instructor is like, hey, set up this exam for me, the email that's automatically going to be pulled in is whoever sets up the exam. So if you set it up for the instructor ever, you're going to want to go in and type their email in here. It doesn't sound like that'll be the case, but I do want to make sure that I cover that just in case that it ever is the case.
Using the act as user feature in Canvas, if we set it up that way.
If you use the act as user feature in Canvas, I think it would pull their email address, but like if you have instructional, like if you have the ability to go in as an instructional designer in any course, that would be tied to your Canvas email. So it might pull your email instead. So it's always good to just go in here and double check. If it's not there, make sure you put in the instructor's email so that they're receiving the notifications, and then you just click here, remove your email address so you're not being blown up with that.
What's that email address for?
This is for email notifications for the violations marked by the proctors. You didn't know that? No? Wow.
I was just checking.
Welcome to Honorlock.
I figured you'd said it. I was just making sure.
So now proctoring settings. We're going to record the student through the webcam and the screen. Right now, we don't have side angle camera turned on for the school, but it might be something that we revisit later. So just keep that in mind. But we are going to record full length videos. It's not a screenshot every 10 seconds. It's full length videos of the student through the webcam and recording their screen. All right. And we're going to show, once I go in and take the exam as a student, we're going to jump back over to this view and show that exact video too. So that'll be fun. We're going to record the web traffic of the student as well. So this is in the Chrome browser. Students will need to be in Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge, but Chrome is recommended. Firefox, Safari will not work. They need to be in a Chromium-based browser like Edge or Chrome and install our extension. Faculty do not need to install an extension. You can be in whichever browser you want, but it's reported that the best experience takes place in Chrome. Honorlock is not supported for students on phones or on tablets. It needs to be like a computer, like a laptop. Chromebooks will work, so that's good. 3-step authentication process. So test taker photo, ID, room scan. I'll turn the room scan off just to kind of save us some time. But it's an automated process and I'll talk more about it as we go in. Don't worry about manual review. That will not show up as an option for you. There's calculator options that are built into Honorlock. I'll just turn on the scientific calculator so you can see what that looks like and how students access it. Preventing copying and pasting, taking screenshots, printing, right-clicking, all of that we can flag and prevent. And then we have our browser guard, which is essentially going to limit me to the exam itself. Right? We also have another option that's not showing up in here, but will show up in your environment to block or allow applications. Like if somebody wanted to allow their students to use Excel during an exam, but didn't want them opening another browser or using a virtual machine or something like that. In addition to our Chrome extension, it would, if that option's enabled, it would ask them to download a desktop application. It's not an application that they're using to take the exam. They're still using Chrome. The application is just a little thing that runs in the background to make sure that nothing else is open on the computer. So it's just like an additional layer of security, plus it gives you the ability and flexibility to allow the use of individual applications while preventing them from going to other ones.
For the web traffic, does it advise students to turn off a VPN?
For the web traffic,
So up above you have a setting.
there might be some issues with VPNs, but our support team's pretty well versed on it. Sometimes there's some VPNs that there's no issues with, but I mean, it would be on a case by case basis. We would just recommend you let your students know, don't use a VPN. And then just like the allowed applications, you can also allow the use of individual websites too, which will also prevent me from like going to ChatGPT or doing anything like that. And then we have our guidelines. So these checkboxes tie into our AI. So for example, if you said scratch paper was allowed, the AI is not going to flag me every few seconds for looking down and doing work on scratch paper. If you're giving the exam in a classroom and you don't want our AI to flag for multiple people in there because you're the teacher and you're watching your students, you can say public areas allowed and our AI won't flag for the other people that are going to obviously be seen through the webcam. But the most important area is this additional instruction section. This is where you set your expectations with students, let them know what's allowed and what is most importantly not allowed during the exam. The more specific that you are, the better. This is also important because this is what our proctors will see. This will guide our proctors. And what you can do is let students know, hey, these behaviors are prohibited during your assessment, right? If you're observed breaching anything that's listed below, your exam will be penalized and or voided. This is important for a couple of things. One, it's going to be a good deterrent for students. The other thing is it's going to give faculty something to fall back on, because when students get caught doing something that they shouldn't be doing, what are they going to do? They're going to try and fight it. I didn't know I wasn't allowed to do that. Well, if it's clearly outlined what they're not allowed to do, plus it's clearly outlined what the penalty will be, it's much easier for the honor court to enforce whatever penalty it is that needs to be enforced. So I've taken some of the common reasons why our proctors mark violations and included them in here. And then what I'll probably do when I go in as a student is I'm probably going to do one of these things.
Pause there for a moment. What Matt was just talking about is probably one of the most important things as faculty and as faculty support, that closing the loop with the students and letting them know that you've seen something, and whether or not, depending on your institutional policy, whether or not you're going to do anything or escalate it to the honor court or whoever that is. Early in the semester, if you can get back with your students and say, hey, that room scan wasn't quite right, or I saw that you had your cell phone out, or something, that will tend to nip that in the proverbial bud for the rest of the.
It has a trickle down effect too, right? Because here's what we struggle with.
Hustling?
Sounds like. Our proctors will make it very clear which sessions, like if I'm a teacher and I have 100 students in my course, I'm not going to have to watch 100 videos to find out if something took place that requires my attention. We're going to say these are the 5 or 6 or 7 that require your attention. The thing that we struggle with is getting the faculty to even watch those videos. So let's just say, for my exam, when I go in, I do something that I'm not supposed to. A proctor comes in, addresses it with me. They're not accusatory. They're just trying to guide me back to compliant behavior. If my teacher never comes to me and tells me what I did wrong and enforces a penalty or gives a warning or something like that, what's going to happen? I'm probably going to go to John, my other classmates, and say, hey, I was using a cell phone and, I still got a 89%, like I didn't get in any trouble. So closing that loop with students is very important because it has a trickle down effect. And then accommodations. Is there an accommodations accessibility office on campus?
There is.
That so we'll manage accommodations globally?
That's a good question.
Okay. I guess we could talk a little bit more about that, but we have two different flows for accommodations. If they are managed globally, basically we would give that office access to our hub, which is a separate portal not available to faculty. And they would go in and upload a spreadsheet with every student, all their accommodations, and that would follow every student from course to course, semester to semester. There is a caveat there. If a student does have like extended time on an exam or something like that, that's either up to the instructor to apply or it's up to that office to apply it. But that's all managed in Canvas. So if John gets 30 extra minutes on his exam, as the instructor, I would go in to moderate this quiz and give John 30 extra minutes. Honorlock will never interfere with anything related to accommodations. So as a faculty member, how do you handle like if somebody has extended time? Are you typically the one that goes in and gives them the extra 30 minutes? Okay, so that wouldn't change. You would just go into Canvas, say, John gets 30 extra minutes on his exam. Sorry to keep using, I'm going to use you more today. And then we would not interrupt that at all. So we'll go ahead and click save, and now we can go take the exam as a student.
So you can select a specific student to receive that.
In Canvas, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But if you needed Matt to be able to wear headphones during his exam, you would type that in the accommodation section. Then Matt could wear headphones, I could have 30 minutes.
We won't interfere with, we won't interfere with screen readers or anything like that either. So let's show you what it looks like from scratch. I'm going to delete this. Ooh, also, run on this little homework helper in ChatGPT. All right, so now I'm logged in as a student in Canvas. And I am going to go click on the Honorlock dashboard. And now I have all my, it's going to tell me I need to install the extension. So this, you saw I didn't have to do this as an instructor, but students, it's going to let them know you need to be in Google Chrome and you need to have the extension installed. Another good reason for the practice quiz, they can do all this way ahead of you. So click agree, get started. It'll take me to the Chrome store. I'll add the extension to my browser. And then we're ready to go. So now I have the support chat at the bottom right. So if I need help, I can go into that chat and get a response pretty much immediately. I will click this button here to launch my exam. It's going to take me to the quiz page in Canvas. Since I, as the instructor, have enabled the exam for me as the student, when I click this button to take the quiz, Honorlock is just going to trigger itself inside of the exam. I don't ever have to leave the environment. I don't have to create an Honorlock account. Everything just happens seamlessly as if we're part of Canvas.
I was thinking.
No syncing, none of that.
Thank you.
Yep, yes. So I told you I didn't know what your experience was, but I knew it was going to be different. That's a big way that it is different. So I'll click agree and agree. Students will see this message before every exam. It's something that we have to do legally. Another thing just to keep in mind before I take this. There are going to be students over the course of time, just percentages, don't verify this, that will reach out about like privacy concerns or stuff like that. If that ever happens, just reach out to us and we'll help address them individually. But it's usually students that go on Reddit and look up, how do I get out of using Honorlock? And then people will say, oh, just say it's an invasion of privacy. It's not. We don't sell or monetize any of their data. We're not swooping around the network. We're not in their roommate's computer or anything like that. So if anything comes up, just reach out to us because we've seen everything. Like when COVID happened, there was students that had never used proctoring before. Now they're forced to use it because everything went online. There were students doing like change.org petitions to get their schools to stop using Proctor. So we've seen everything. So if anything comes up, just reach out to us. So we'll continue to our system check. And again, all of this can be accomplished during the practice quiz, but I'll click this. It'll tell me my system's compatible with Honorlock, the guidelines that I've typed out here, the behaviors that are not allowed. All this is visible to the student before and during the exam, and it's always visible to the proctors. We also, in addition to the practice quiz, have the Honor Prep guided tour. So this is a quick tutorial to walk students through how to reach out to our support team if they have a technical issue, what a live proctor interaction might look like if they're doing something that they shouldn't be doing, gives them the ability to do the authentication steps. It's very informational. Tells them what our AI is doing, what it's not doing. It's a good supplement to the practice quiz. Practice quiz, you can think experimental. Honor Prep tour, information.
And that's just from the home screen.
Yeah, it's right here. They click on this link, or you can just share prep.honorlock.com directly with them. And then we'll click this button right here to begin authentication. So the first thing that we do is we run a browser security check. We check to make sure that there are no tabs open in the browser that are not allowed websites. So if like I had the ChatGPT website open, it would say you need to close out of that. It's also looking for Chrome extensions that could be used to commit some sort of misconduct, steal the exam content. There's over 10,000 extensions that we block. We could see here, I have ChatGPT installed, and I also have the AI homework helper that reads the question and gives me the best possible answer. If students have anything like this, we will detect it and they will not be able to get into their exams until they disable it. They will not be able to re-enable it when they're in the exam either. So I will click this button and these extensions up here in the top right, they will go away.
Are you familiar with the transcript extension?
Oh.
Okay, well, all of you student workers. There is a transcript and several others, homework helpers. They have an affiliate program. An affiliate program, but it's like $4.99 a month for students, but if they refer friends, they can get credits towards 3 months of transcript, and it will, as he was saying, like, when you're on the exam, it'll fill in your answers for you.
Yeah. Can't do that with Honor Raise. So we got a message about Browser Guard. Let's see, sweet, because I just got something. I needed that message there. All right, now we're ready. Oh. I don't know if it's gonna think that video behind me is another person, so I'm just gonna do this real quick. And then it's gonna ask them to show their ID. So school issued IDs will work, digital IDs will work, government issued IDs, driver's license, passport. This is an automated step. I could scan this QR code with my phone and upload a picture of my ID, or I can just use my webcam. That's what I'm gonna do. And now you know where I live. So what we're looking to do here is we're looking to match the name on the ID to the name of the student taking the exam in Canvas. So we're looking to match the name on the ID to their name in Canvas. If for some reason there's an issue, they can reach out to support and we can manually verify the ID. So really what I'm trying to say is this should never be a blocker that prevents them from getting into their exam. So let's go in
And even if they have preferred name in Canvas, this will match to the first name.
So we have success, put this away. Hopefully you didn't memorize my address. I do have a Ring camera though, so.
You're just gonna send tips treats, that's.
Yeah, okay, I'm sure you would. Maybe you can send me some new shoes since mine have. So now we're gonna share our screen. And then once I click share, I can focus the test window and then click this button right here to start my assessment. And then Honorlock is just gonna trigger itself inside of the Canvas quiz. So I never had to leave. It's just super easy to use, right? I didn't have to wait for a proctor to launch me into my exam or anything like that. And if I'm a student that's not doing anything wrong, I'm not gonna hear from a proctor. We're not gonna interrupt students. We want to create a low friction environment for students. But unfortunately, proctoring needs to exist because not every single student tries to earn their degrees honestly. We'd like to think that they all do, but that's why proctoring exists. But the best part about Honorlock is for the students that are taking their exams honestly, it is a very low friction experience where it almost feels like there's nothing else going on, right? So at the bottom of the screen, we have our little toolbar where I can see the details on the right, the calculator. So this is built into Honorlock. Obviously, you don't have to enable it if a calculator is not allowed. I could see myself through the webcam right here if I wanted to. And we're also we're listening for everything that the student's saying out loud. So since I'm doing a little demonstration for you all right now, we're transcribing all the audio. And we're also listening for keywords and key phrases that might be indicative of misconduct. I don't like saying cheating, I like saying misconduct. It's a little friendly. So let's try and misbehave now. I'm sure it already thinks I said some things that I shouldn't have said, but if I try to copy this question, it's going to tell me copy is not permitted. If I try to cut, paste, right click, all of these things are being flagged and prevented. So if I answer this and go on to the next question, and let's say I tried to take a screenshot of this question, it's going to blur the screen and say, you can't do that. And it's going to prevent me and flag me. If I answer this, go to the next question, and then try to open up like another browser like Safari, it's going to tell me, hey, you can't click outside of the assessment and restrict me to the exam itself. Or if I try to open up a new tab and go to chatgpt.com, it's going to close out of the tab and say you're not permitted to access that site. If I tried to do a Google search for John Floyd, it's going to say you're not permitted to access that site.
The stars.
Yeah. I don't know what would have come up if I did that. Nobody knows. I'm sure you're also not the only John Floyd that exists. Now, everything that I just demonstrated, remember I talked about the analogy, the in-home security system, how we're kind of similar to that. None of those flags would actually trigger a live proctor to join the session. And the reason for that is because those are all things that we can just prevent from happening on the spot. So we will flag them, but they will be flagged with medium severity because they were prevented from happening. However, I'm sure you're wondering what would trigger a proctor to come into a session. There's a lot of things, like if John was standing here in the frame behind me, we would be able to detect that additional face. A multiple people flag would be triggered and sent directly to the live proctoring queue. And then the live proctor will open up the session. They'll be able to see your guidelines. They'll be able to see everything and then make a human determination on whether or not they need to pop in. There might be a picture of Taylor Swift on the wall behind one of the students. We might think that's another person. The AI might think it's another person. The proctor will get notified and see, okay, there's clearly not a person in the room. They'll observe the student, but they'll see, oh, it's just a picture of Taylor Swift, and the proctor will not pop in. They are not just trained on when to pop in, they're also trained on when to not pop in, right? So we don't want to interrupt and bother a student if there's no reason to bother that student, right? So another thing that could trigger a live proctor is maybe if I pull the webcam up, right? If I obstruct my webcam, that's going to generate a flag to say that my face is not visible in the frame of my environment. A proctor is going to get notified. They're going to open up my session, and then a proctor will probably join, like you're seeing right now, and address the behavior live with the student. So this is a real person. This is not AI. The proctor has joined the session and said, hey, I'm Leon. I'm your Honorlock proctor. I can't see you clearly through the webcam. Can you remove anything that might be blocking it? I'm sorry. The proctor interactions take place through chat, right? He said, please refrain from covering your webcam as this action is a violation of your guidelines, right? In my guidelines, it says, I cannot obstruct the webcam or my exam will be penalized, so I'm going to be in trouble. What the proctor will do here, and I just know this because I work here, the student won't know it. The proctor is going to mark a violation in the session. When they mark a violation, that's what triggers that email that we were talking about earlier. Our AI cannot mark violations. It can mark medium, high, or low flags. It's the high flags that alert the proctors, and then the live proctors will observe the student. So Leon was actually observing me for a couple seconds or minutes before he actually jumped into the session. Leon knows I work here. He's done this for me a bunch of times. He's one of our proctoring leads. So he always helps out whenever I'm doing these demonstrations. But the proctor will never be accusatory. They will never be like, hey, you cheated, or hey, you committed misconduct. They're always just going to try and guide the student back to compliant behavior. I talked about their training. They go through a 6-week training program led by a professional therapist that specializes in working with students. So it's not just focused on, hey, this is when you should pop in, this is when you should not pop in. It's also very heavily focused on emotional empathy and de-escalation. Maybe I'm taking my exam and I have a kid, and my kid's running around in the background, and he just, remember me saying this, just stepped on a Lego, right? And he's screaming and crying. The proctor gets notified there's multiple people in the room. The proctor might join the session and just say, hey, I will sit with you while you attend to your child, right? They're trained on that too. So not having like a video of the proctor show up is really helpful. I told you we're trying to create a low friction environment for students, not interfere with their ability to perform well on an assessment. If a video of Leon just popped up on my screen and he's like, hey, I'm your proctor, it would probably scare me as a student, right? So Leon can see me, Leon can hear me, I cannot see or hear Leon. Another thing to note, the proctors will never kick a student out of their exam. They will never submit an exam on behalf of the student. Usually these interactions are 1.5 minutes or less, so they're pretty quick. If for some reason, 71% of the time, a violation is related to the use of a secondary device. If for some reason the proctor comes in and sees that the student is using a secondary device, they'll say, hey, we've detected a possible secondary device, please remove it from the work area. If for some reason the student's like, I don't know what you're talking about, and they will not comply with the proctor's request, the proctor will still mark the violation for the suspicion, and then put something in there that says, you know, the student was non-compliant with the proctor's request. So eventually the proctor will resume the session. Leon, you can resume the session. Thank you. I'll say thank you, good luck on your assessment, and then I can continue on with my exam. So again, I know I'm going to be marked with violation because I work here, but there's nothing that pops up on my screen as a student to say, violation, you know, nothing like that. But now hopefully I know, since I've had that gentle nudge from the proctor, that I should not be doing what I just did. But when I submit the exam, this session will pretty much be available instantly to faculty. So if I go back over to my faculty view, we can see right here, boom, one session needs my review. So I know, all right, something took place in Honorlock Assessment 2 that needs my review. If I click right here, it'll take me directly to the session. Wow, that is a creepy picture. I don't want to see that anymore. So it'll take like 1 minute or 2 for the video to load, but all the flags, everything that took place in the session will show up on the right-hand side. So these flags are all clickable. Right. Question number 1, I told you it wasn't going to like what I was saying during while I was going through. It's detected a lot of keywords that it didn't like. You could see when I tried to copy, cut, paste, right click, all of those flags come through, but you don't need to go in and waste your time looking at these medium indicators, right? Where you're going to want to focus your attention is on these violations. If there's ever a purple violation, that means one of our proctors came in, addressed the behavior with the student, and marked that student did something that was clearly in breach of your specified guidelines. So we can see here, I obstructed the webcam. That's not allowed. Let me close out of this and see if the video is ready to watch. Let me go to results here. So before I even go in, there's a little caret, and you can see like at a high level what happened. It flagged me 25 times for saying phrases that it didn't like. It said unauthorized accessories worn. So they always think this is a watch. It's not a watch. And then non-exam related distractions, software messages, noise, or third-party interaction. So probably marked that because there's other people that I'm talking to in the room. And then on the right-hand side, you can see all the flags generated by the AI, but you will never see a violation show up on the right-hand side. The violation is always a Proctor added flag, and the Proctor added flags will always show up in this recommended tab. So obviously this is my demo environment. I do what I did for you all quite a lot. So my violation percentage is over 50%, whereas yours will be about 5%. So if you have 100 students, there's usually about 5 sessions in the recommended tab. And then what you would do is click on review. The video still hasn't loaded yet. That is surreal. I was hoping to click on this video, right here, you can click on the specific flag and it'll take you to the exact part of the video where the flag took place. So you don't ever have to actually watch the whole video. All you have to do is click on the indicator and it'll take you to the exact part of the session where I blocked the webcam, right? And then if it was a helpful flag, you can tell us, yes, this was helpful. And then that'll help with our little internal feedback loop on whether or not our proctors are delivering valuable flags directly to you. You can also download the session to view at the Honor Court, view it offline if you want. Clicking request full session will basically download an HTML version of exactly what you're seeing here, this whole session viewer, so that you can view all of this offline with the flags and indicators. I really want the video to load. Let's see what happens. Nope, still hasn't loaded yet. It will, I promise. All right.
Is there a good training video for the students to introduce them to Honorlock and what they need to do to prepare their environment to take the test?
We have some resources. The best thing is that Honor Prep guided tour. That guided tour is the best, but we have resources in our knowledge base. So like.
Yeah, the honor prep, as he's pulling that up, it guides them through like, hey, this is what a good room scan looks like.
Okay.
Everything.
Yeah, and it's just like, here's how to prepare your work environment. You know, good lighting, clear desk, not in bed, all the things. And then it spells out what we're looking for, what we're not doing. You know, we're not going into your system resources. We're not getting all of your network activity, all that stuff. Just to help students, we have found that transparency is really the best to help ease that exam anxiety. And then also from the faculty perspective, as clear directions as you can give on these are my expectations, the better. Right.
I'm sending an email to you, Rick, and the team with our adoption toolkit, the Honor Prep, and a couple of items so that you'll have that and you can, if you build internal sites or whatever that others can use internally to access all that and include in their courses.
Yeah, this, I mean, like, this isn't something from the knowledge base, like the how to use Honorlock for a test taker, but the Honor Prep tour is way better. I can even show you what's in there.
And I know y'all have been doing proctoring for a long time, but that's one of the things that came up when we were at a school down the street and we were reviewing sessions, but again, y'all probably have policies and walk through this with faculty time and again, but it's interesting for me because the guidelines, we were reviewing a couple of live real sessions and the guidelines said no cell phones. Didn't say no use of cell phones, and the cell phone for the exam taker was right here. And the proctor came in and was just like, there's a cell phone in your environment. You know, please power that off on the camera. Put that they put it in a closet. They walked across the room, put it in a closet. And then we all came back to the room and were like, okay, so what do you do in that instance? And one person was like, they get a 0 on the test. The guidelines said no cell phones. They had a cell phone. They weren't using it. But it was in the environment and somebody else in the room was like, well, they weren't using it, so they weren't cheating. It's like,
That was a fun little.
yes, it was like, well, what is it gonna be? It was just like the guideline said no cell phones. So you didn't be like, no cell phones. So yeah,
Majority of the video would be ready.
interesting things to discuss as you're figuring all this out. But yeah, that discussion with the student after the fact, most important.
Looks like you got the video there, yeah?
Yeah. Now it's working.
So then wherever you click, it just takes you to that timestamp.
Yep.
That's nice.
Look, when I click on it, it goes to where I'm like, uh-oh, I got caught.
That's a big time cheater. He gets caught a lot.
Over 50%, that might be
I
accurate.
got a good rate. They still won't kick me out of school. I don't know. But here's the guided tour. So I just click start. I can run the system check. It'll tell me to install the extension, but I already have it installed, so I don't need to really worry about that. It'll tell them how it works, about our proctors, our support team, what our AI does, what we don't do, more information about the AI, authentication, and then it gives them the ability to like actually do the test taker photo. I'm not going to do it again. I'll just click skip. Same thing with the ID. I could try it myself, skip it. And then the room scan. So this is an example of a typical room scan, completely showing the environment. This guy doesn't even work for us anymore. And then we'll skip that again. Preparing for the assessment. Recording, toolbar, what a live proctor interaction might look like. Reach out to live chat support. Our knowledge base is accessible at all times, and then we're done. So that's a good resource. And then the practice quiz. Setting up that practice quiz is crucial. Any other questions? What about for the people on Zoom?
Yeah, there's a few things that I was wondering about. So I understand that the live proctor isn't going to come in and actually pay attention and watch, the video recording of the person or the live feed of the person before they make a high flag. At what point after they've interacted with the person do they stop paying attention to the person again?
If they mark a violation, so what happens is the proctors aren't there at the beginning of the exam, but if our AI marks a high flag, it alerts the proctor. Then the proctor will observe the student and make a determination on whether or not they need to address that student live. While they're making that determination, they might say, it's a picture of Taylor Swift on the wall, I don't need to pop in. But if they do pop in because a violation was committed, the proctor is going to mark the violation right then and there, address it with the student, guide them back to compliant behavior. Hopefully they comply. And then that one violation is usually enough. If they do it again, it's probably not going to be the same proctor that rejoins the session. It's probably going to be a different proctor that joins. But as soon as the proctor resumes the session, they're usually not paying attention to that student anymore.
I see. And then what I'm curious about is what I understood from Proctor U was that, there was a lot of these issues with scheduling because there's only so many live proctors and it's going to be a one-on-one live proctor situation. And here the situation is because of this hybrid kind of system, you don't really need to stress so much about when are you scheduling, is there somebody available, and that kind of stuff. I think I'm wondering, with the logistics of how this system works, is there a point at which the system is too stressed? There's too many people doing something at once. Do you have enough proctors that can pop in to support, everybody taking their exam?
Great question. So we look at all of our data ahead of time. We have a crazy algorithm that feeds into how we schedule how many proctors need to be on staff at any given time based on how many people are taking exams and what percentage of sessions typically require a proctor to intervene. So, we have some schools that have, 100,000 students that take exams in a week, right? We are built to scale based on volume. And the way that we're able to see what the expected volume is is based off of scheduling in the LMS itself. So when somebody enables an exam with Honorlock, we know how many expected students are supposed to take that exam, and all of that gets fed into how we schedule how many proctors need to be on staff at any given time.
So then it's kind of preferred then that exams get scheduled a little bit easier, just to give kind of a heads up about, what the
Yeah, that
scope
would be the preferred route. I mean, even if there was we overstaff, especially during high peak times, just to be safe. Usually our recommendation is enable your exams at least 72 hours prior to the exam being administered. Another big reason for that is because of search and destroy. If we do find your content on the web and you want to guarantee that it's taken down before the students actually go in and take the exam, those websites have to legally respond to our takedown request within 48 hours or something like that. So enabling your exam and running search and destroy 72 hours before that time would also work, but 72 hours is the window that we would definitely recommend.
And then I have just one more kind of broader question. Thanks for answering everything. So you mentioned a lot about locking down this specific computer and browser, and that's great. Can you talk about how you catch, there's another screen just kind of to the side and the person's eyes are just sort of looking at ChatGPT on a different system, kind of right off screen, and or taking screenshots from a physical, camera or phone, not taking a screenshot, that sort of external use?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple different ways that we can detect other devices. Our proctors are very well trained on what to look for. Usually they can see a cell phone reflection in somebody's eyeballs or something like that. They're trained to know if students are frequently looking off screen, what are they looking at when they're off the screen? They might pop in and be like, can you do a room scan to show the work area? If you want to make sure that they're really not using anything, one of the things that you could require that we haven't turned on yet for the institution, but we could, is requiring the use of a side angle camera. A side angle camera gives, trying to figure out, visibility of what's going on with the hands, or do they have a cell phone out or something like that. It's trained to look for, the AI is trained to look for different things. You get more visibility into the work environment to make sure that they're not using unauthorized devices or anything like that. But 71% of the time that a proctor marks a violation across all the exams that we proctor. And I think, what did we proctor last year? 15 million exams, 14 million? 10 million exams. That's still a lot. Across those 10 million exams, our violation rate was about 5%, and 71% of those violations were related to the use of a secondary device.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
Can I just describe a common hiccup that I would have with our old proctoring solution and how it mated with Moodle? And then I'm glad I'll try to see people here because it might have more to do with Moodle than Honorlock. And I thought I might see it come up, but I didn't. So it used to be that I'd make a quiz in Moodle. I would set a password to that quiz because that's what prevented a student from getting in and taking the exam outside of the proctoring environment. The LMS was meant to communicate the password to the proctoring solution. I think this was the case with ProctorU and with Examity before that. And there was always a little button that had to be pushed by the user. Populate password or fill in password or something. My students would always miss it. Or 5-10% of them would miss it, and I'd get these emails. I didn't see you have to do anything with that.
With Canvas, no, it all happens behind the scenes. So when you enable your exam with Honorlock, we automatically generate an access code.
Saw that, yeah.
So it's right here. If I go into the assessment, we generate, it says don't edit. So this is typed in behind the scenes. The student won't be asked to enter it. So if they go in Microsoft, in Firefox or something like that, it will ask them for an access code, but you will never share this with them. So they'll know they have to get back into Google Chrome or something like that.
So that's, if I get that email, what's the access code? Because they're always asking me, what's the password? I know they're in the wrong browser.
Yep, you know they're in the wrong browser. Just tell them, reach out to Honorlock support. let them know at the beginning of the semester, if you run into any issues whatsoever, reach out to Honorlock support. Do you give any third-party exams or all your exams gonna be in Canvas?
All in Canvas.
Okay, you don't need to worry about the click the button thing. Yeah.
Thank you. But yeah, as Matt was saying, as much as you can, first point of escalation is our support.
Yeah.
Because they were there.
Always.
Well,
I'm your best friend, I'm telling you.
12.8 seconds, they resolved 99.8% of issues per student.
That was the premise to which Honorlock was built, was around support. Because we had such bad experiences with proctoring in college. I don't know who that was.
Not even the last name that rhymes with Myber. Got it.
I don't know what he's talking about. I also
And they
didn't
couldn't get
step-
support.
I also didn't step in pain.
One of our biggest issues is unreliable internet where students will get bumped from their exam.
Yeah.
How do they get back in?
They just re-authenticate. So
And Honorlock will also prove.
that they had
that
internet.
they had internet issues.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
It'll be in the logs.
Yep, we can verify it, because that's the other, my dog ate my homework, is the internet. Oh, my internet went out. Did it though?
It'll also be in the logs if they hit the X in the top of the.
There's also like the more tricky internet thing that people don't really think about. It's the,
Yeah.
I didn't completely lose my internet, but there's dips that I don't even know about. Because I didn't get kicked out of the exam in Canvas. We won't kick the students out at that point. If for some reason their network quality dips below what our minimum requirements are to record their video, we have a fail-safe option so that they don't get interrupted. And it'll take fail-safe images of them throughout the exam. That's an every 10-second thing. If you ever see like still images, it's because they had network issues. But we specifically don't kick them out, so it doesn't like ruin their experience or stress them out, because if their network connectivity is just fluctuating and dipping and going back up and dipping, they don't necessarily know it because they're not getting kicked out of Canvas. We don't want to interfere with that. The other benefit there is the AI will be able to continuously flag and the proctors can still get notified. If their network connectivity isn't good enough for a proctor to pop in, the proctor can still leave a note on the session and say that they did something. The student just wouldn't hear it from the proctor, but you would be notified basically on what that student did. Any last second questions?
I was stretching, but I do have a question.
Yeah, let's do it.
So as student
I'm
employees.
stretching too.
As student employees, we were given a sandbox so we can test things out.
Yeah.
Know the system. I'm gonna go and enable Honorlock in mine.
Okay.
I wanna know if I were to make a practice quiz or a random quiz. Can I go into view student mode?
You can just turn off the ID step.
Yeah, D step.
Well,
I'll tell you why. What?
go ahead.
Um,
Well, I was gonna warn against student preview. If you're actually trying to like look at proctoring results. But if you just want to get student experience for going in,
yeah.
great. But if you want to look at proctoring results, don't do the student preview mode.
No, you can. It'll still work.
There seems to have been a problem.
Okay, maybe he's right, but you can, like, if you're just going in to test what it's like to take an exam as a student. And take care, just make sure you turn off the ID step, because if you go in and test as a student, your name in Canvas is test student. So if you hold up your ID, it's not gonna work.
Unless you have an ID that says test.
Unless you have an ID unless that's your actual name. But if you want to test that and still turn on the ID and see that it fails, and see that you can go click on the live chat at the bottom right and get a support agent to like, they'll be able to see that you're just an instructor, basically emulating a student. They can bypass the ID for you.
Okay.
So
So
if you
if,
don't want to have to deal with that, just turn off the ID step. If you
Yeah.
do want to see what that looks like, you can turn it on.
so if I am in my preview as a student, can I then trigger a proctor in my practice?
Probably not, because you're gonna show up as test student and they're gonna ignore that.
Okay.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
This one's, maybe you just answered it, but let's say Haley is like, hey, I'm gonna be busy this weekend. Malachi, can you take the test for me? And I like scan my ID and everything. Is it gonna see my ID says Malachi and not Haley, and then just say, hey, this is not the right person?
It won't let you pass that step.
Not even that step. Okay.
What if Haley gives him her ID?
It would let him in. It would let him pass it.
Doesn't match.
Yeah, we don't do facial recognition. There's a lot of security and privacy risks associated with that.
It's the first thing the proctors check.
Yeah.
However, and they'll be like,
They will look at that and be like, this
Haley's
is not
changed
right.
it, yeah.
But that like proxy thing, like that's something that is. It's pretty hard to completely prevent with technology, but our proctors could see it, the instructor could see it, and just knowing that. That will deter most students, right?
If the instructors close the loop with the students.
Yeah.
See stuff like that.
Gotcha.
I just want to verify something that I think I heard. So if somebody else is going to cheat by giving another person their ID so that that other person can bypass the ID check, and now that person is taking the exam for somebody else and is doing everything perfectly, so there's no high flags happening, the AI isn't going to be able to detect that that's a different person, and there won't be any indication for the instructor that it's a different person.
Yeah, there wouldn't be any way to detect it, but it's also a good practice to spot check anyone that gets a really, really good grade on an exam. And then if you go in and just happen to look at that video, you'll be able to see, hey, wait a minute. This is
Right.
the right person, but we do not use facial recognition technology. There are a lot of security and privacy risks associated with storing biometric data like that. It's not that we couldn't do it. It's just that as a company, we have collectively agreed that we are not going to do anything like that. But that's going to be so rare. It's such an edge case that it just won't come up. But if you're really, really concerned about it, you could always go in and spot check some videos.
There are some real funny online cases of people doing crazy things in order to, cheat out Honorlock systems. If people know that all you need to do is get your smart friend to have their ID, that's wild.
Most of those students will give themselves away in some way.
Yeah.
As a student, if I knew I was being recorded, there's no way. There's no way I'd even try to do it.
It's being recorded. You can specifically list out what the repercussions would be if you were to be in breach of any of your guidelines. You can specifically say you must take your own exam, no exceptions, stuff like that. And then if they were to be caught and that penalty is enforced, that feedback loop is closed, that will help. But it's going to be so rare that something like that actually takes place. But I appreciate your concern and vigilance on it.
I just think got to make sure that nobody realizes that little point of weakness.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that it is a weakness because it still would get caught majority of the time by a proctor.
Thanks.
Yep. All right. Anything else?
Yeah, just real fast for third-party tests.
Yep.
Are the support staff, are they trained in
Yeah.
helping with?
Oh, yeah.
as well? Okay.
Yeah.
Number one support issue.
That's the number one support issue. Yeah. And we could proctor, and the rule of thumb is we could proctor any third-party exam just as long as that exam can be password protected.
One last question. This is probably never going to fall within our jurisdiction, but if needed, could we also view a student's attempt through Honorlock?
If you have that permission.
Okay.
That would be a Michael question.
All right. We just have some teachers who need a little extra boost, and
If you have permission, like instructor permissions in a course, then you could. If you don't, then you won't be able to.
okay.
But that's all on your internal.
Gotcha.
So just to clarify on that, does that mean like I don't normally teach a course, but a professor reaches out to us and says, hey, for whatever reason, could you take a look at this? I'm at a conference this week. And we add ourselves, but the ITRC agrees that it's a legitimate case. So then I or Rick or somebody else gets added to the course as a teacher role temporarily. We could look at the recordings and then remove ourselves from the teacher recording, the teacher role later.
Yeah, you should be able to, just as long as Honorlock's added to the course and you have the proper permissions in that course. Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's what I thought you meant, but I was just trying to think it through, like, how would we actually enable it? Thanks.
Sweet. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Let's meet you
Well, I'll
all.
meet you, yeah.